عاصف الأنين بداخلي كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر وكم كرهت مصابها لكن رأيت الخير يسكب في أنا كم مرة قد ضقت من عظم الباب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم Allah to all the viewers watching. Walillahi alhamd. And today's segment we have a special guest all the way from cold Canada. Alhamdulillah. We have Brother Zubair Adamji. Is that right?
Yeah.
Hayakumullah. So Allah Barik Feek for joining us today to discuss a very important matter now that Ramadan is literally around the corner. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us istiqamah and increase us in khair. Allahumma ameen. So, Brother Zubair Adamji, I came across your recent podcast with a brother, I don't know his name, forgive me. And
Sam.
Sam, is it?
Yeah.
Sam, Allah Barik Feek. And you were discussing a very important issue. And I think this is something that's gone unchecked, in my opinion, for a very long time. I think the charities have got comfortable, but it's about time now that we ask all the necessary questions. And you've raised some very valid points. I watched the live stream and it got me thinking, because I've been tackling the same issue here in the UK. So it's not just me being spontaneous. Brothers, are joining in, and even the donors, they're asking a lot of questions. So let's get to the crux of it. Habibi, introduce yourself to our audience and we'll continue once we obviously get the formalities out the way. Hayakumullah.
Jazakumullah khairan for having me. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. So as you probably might have seen, so primarily focused on, if I would describe in one nutshell, to help our brothers and sisters becoming stronger believers, right? The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the strong believer is better than the weak one, is more beloved and better than the weak one, and in both of them is khair. So obviously that comes in a various variety of factors, whether it be personal development, focus, time management, aiming high, and part of that is obviously smart investments as well as smart donations, smart giving, as we would call it. So from that is there some of the other projects I'm involved in is dawah to non-Muslims and development of new Muslims, as well as Quranic Arabic. That's all obviously part-time things that I do, alhamdulillah. And from a day job perspective, I'm in cybersecurity.
Alhamdulillah. So don't be fiddling around with my IP address. I'm a bit worried about that sort of stuff. But alhamdulillah, akhi, it's very, very engaging. You do a lot in your spare time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you more barakah in time. Allahumma ameen. Now, Habibi, I have had a bit of back and forth with the charity sector here in the UK. And to understand my gripe or my issues with the charity sector is that certain causes and certain, ongoing situations in the Middle East, even outside the Middle East, but more so the Middle East. And I mentioned the Middle East, why? Because of prophetic narration. So people, their hearts open. As you can see, I've got Palestine on, I bought this from Khalil, or if not Khalil, Al-Dhahiriyah, which is a little village or town in the West Bank, outside of Hebron. So with Palestine, there's a numerous prophetic texts about the virtues of Sham or Baytul Maqdis and whatnot. So naturally, and I'm sure you agree with me, people's heart are more generous because of the religious significance. Now, with Gaza, and obviously there's a recent ceasefire, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all those who have been killed and raise their status as shuhada, Allahumma ameen. And there's been a severe campaign for charities to amass donations. And they've raised the bar, haven't they, when it comes to their marketing strategy. So do you have the same concerns as me regarding how this has been dealt with, how they've been ongoing with different sponsored ads, and it's just like in your face, emotional blackmail? So give me your take. We could agree to disagree, but what's your opinion on that?
No. Okay. In particular to this, I mean, in terms of what strategies should be used for marketing and whatnot, right? How much should that be narrated and transferred over? Allahu alam. I mean, there seems to be some good sides of it, right? I mean, that seems to invoke and create awareness among the Muslims as well as the non-Muslims about the oppression that's going on. And I think it has, I mean, beyond the donation and charity, obviously it seems to me, and Allah knows best what's going on behind the scenes, it seems to have had some impact on the political side, right? And maybe people would have been able to get away with a lot more than what they're able to get away with, right? They're being called out and what we're seeing about the UN and what have you. So there is some value to that, and Allah knows best.
And I came across, and funny enough, you'd be surprised. After I watched your podcast, I noticed and I saw a document. And again, I'm going to put it on screen once we obviously get this out. And I want to break it down. So, because we've got you here to sort of educate us, to enlighten us, and to also issue, certain concerns that you have, right, regarding the way charities are operating. So you wrote, and I'm going to put some images up so you can respond. To raise the bar of transparency, accountability, and efficiency, I suggest donors regularly, at least annually, ask charities disclose the following, and then you mentioned some points. We like charities to share the following. You said how much has been raised for a particular campaign, and you put in brackets Gaza, Syria, Kashmir. So what did you mean? I'm going to go into each bullet point, but what did you mean by that? What was your intention of that? Many years ago, in fact.
Right. Okay, I'll tell you. So just a disclaimer, right? First of all, the intent of this podcast and any other related content that I do, especially around smart giving, and because sometimes obviously Shaitan tries to exploit that as well, right? So the intent is that, look, if you are used to giving a certain amount of money every year, but it an absolute amount or percentage of your wealth or profits or what have you, that amount should never decrease. Inshallah, it should keep going up, right? The idea behind this document and these podcasts and this discussion is that what can you do to increase the impact of that donation? It's not to say, oh, you know what, I don't trust any of these charities. I'm just gonna, because Shaitan says, oh yeah, maybe it's not gonna go anywhere. You keep your money, use it for your own family. So that's not the purpose. We want you to not spend, but spend wisely. Just wanted to put it out there. So this is what happens, as we were talking before the recording. Obviously, when something becomes a hot topic, and with good or bad intention or just the nature of the business, and I've seen that, I've heard from various CEOs, I've heard from various members, what have you, is that if there's a hot cause, obviously with Gaza, or recently I think a year or two ago there was Pakistan flood, right, or there was an earthquake in Turkey, what have you. So what happens, even if you don't have a presence in there, what ends up happening is there's the pressure from the board, there's a pressure from the donors. Hey, are you doing something there? Are you doing something there? Are you doing something there? And then if you don't have anything, you say, look, we don't have anyone, you can do your own due diligence and what have you. People start losing donors, or they start losing interest from donors or what have you. So let's say, you know what? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Now, obviously, I have personally known many charities who are still sitting on money that was collected under the, banner of Pakistan flood. Okay. Now, what happens is that obviously they have to disperse that amount of money, right? So then you would say, okay, yeah, it's not exactly that, but it's still related to it, this, that, what have you. So the idea being that, let's be transparent, right? So if you are just, because this is something, I mean, if you know from the business world, the idea is like, the sales teams go out, if the customer asks you something, just say yes. Right? They go, yeah, we'll do it. And then you go and then you figure it out. You find someone to do it. Maybe you have a team in-house, or if you're not, then you contract out someone and whatnot. And obviously, the issue when you contract out some of these things is that you lose control. There's more overhead, right? I mean, in your podcast that you did, you was like a 3% here, 3% there, and so on and so forth, right? So you kind of start having those middle layers, and each middle layer costs you money. Then the second issue comes up with that is that, okay, maybe you raise $10 million or $100 million. Well, has it been used? So if you do 2 or 3 clicks on most charities, you will see that, okay, we'll try to spend your money in the area that you designated. If we can't, then we'll make our choice. Some of them will say, we'll reach out to you and ask you if we can use it here and there. So the point being that if everyone is saying, yeah, give me the money, I'll take care of this. Well, do you have that sort of channel or not? Let's be transparent. And look, we raised 100 million for this project or 10 million for this project, and it's been 2 years. We were only being able to use 5 million of it or 50% of it. And where do we use it? Because that will also help separate, the lemons from the oranges or what have you, right? So you want to see like who's able to do it and who's not. So some of these numbers can help you understand what their capacity is and what is actually happening.
Okay. Very impactful, very, very insightful as well. And another bullet point that really got me thinking was, in impact reports, instead of just sharing what was done, also share how much was spent to achieve the reported impact. Now, that's very vital, isn't it? Because what happens is when you're donated, you don't really see the impact. Okay, a few videos here and there, but doesn't really give you the full picture. And also, what you also added, which was projects planned and actual budget upon completion, including amount spent on following categories. And the categories you mentioned, so if you want to break this down for me, Akhil Aziz: supplies, delivery, field workers directly interacting with suppliers and beneficiaries, all supporting admin and management costs, and ideally have a clear commitment on a campaign by campaign basis or a category level like Sadaqah versus Zakat, and what percentage will be spent and whatnot. So give us elaboration what you meant by that, because I do believe this is vitally important, which we're not getting. And I believe that transparency that we're talking about, because we've got the right, it's our money that we're giving at the end of the day, right? We are donating.
Yes.
So when we ask, you have to be on standby and present those evidences or documentation or reports vis-a-vis. So yeah, give us a sort of insight as to what you were intending when you wrote this.
Fine. So what's happening is a few things here. Number one, most charities are primarily concerned, not everything, but their primary concern is to make sure the reporting is up to the standard of, CRA for Canada. You have Charity Commission in UK, US probably has IRS or what have you, right? So they want to do the reporting to make sure that their requirements are satisfied. Now, within that requirement, there are many terminologies which is not how a layman would use that terminology. So if you and I mean, not you and I, I'm saying if a layman, or 10 years ago, when I would go to a charity and I say, hey, what's your admin cost? Okay, so my understanding of admin cost is way different than the English understanding of admin cost based on the charity law.
Yeah.
Okay, and if a charity is reporting, yeah, our admin cost is 3%, they're not wrong, but they're also not right, because that's not what I'm asking. They are right because in my being naive, I'm asking the wrong question. Okay, so that's the thing. So that, because if you say at 3% admin, according to the charity definition, is way different than what a regular donor would mean. So what I mean by admin is if I'm giving money for the food, right, then I'm saying, well, okay, if I give you $1,000 or $100, how much of that is actually being used to purchase and deliver that food? Okay, to me, everything other than that is admin. Okay, but that's not the definition of CRA. That's not the definition of Charity Commission and what have you, right? So they would allow you to have certain other things not considered as part of admin, because that's just the way the charities are. So even, for example, if you think about, inshallah, we should talk about zakat separately, right? So what is zakat, right? What am I responsible for, right? And then let's definitely bring that up later, right? So if I owe $100 of zakat, or $1,000 of zakat, or $10,000 of zakat, it's my responsibility, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, everybody needs to take care of and get it figured out by their own scholar. I need to get $1,000 to someone who is deserving. Right? Yeah. So if 500 of that money is just going in different employees and marketing or this and that, then is it, well, I mean, obviously charities are also responsible, but if they have a fatwa from their own scholars or what have you, that's a different scenario. But am I not responsible to making sure that I'm getting $1,000 to a poor person, right? Or how much of that can be taken by a charity? Anyways, that's a separate topical pocket. But the point being, the point being that, if the charity, so another thing that I've had, like obviously in some boardrooms, I've had this discussion, like, let's have a next level of transparency. Okay, but that's a challenging thing. If the whole charity sector is not doing it, it will be quite odd for you to do it, and then you might also lose donors. Or some other charities might, not like you. They might not collaborate with you. They might not partner with you, because now you're kind of creating trouble for them, like how it works, right? So the point being, if the donors are smart enough, they're asking the right question, that would push the charities to update their system of reporting, and a new standard, a new template can be done that can help you understand what's going on. So right now, today, for example, some of the costs that are mentioned here is, let's say if you want to do a simple project of, getting, let's say, food in Egypt or refugees in Egypt. Okay, so what does that look like? I want to see the balance sheet, and that should not be hard. Like if you're collecting $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million for that project, just show the breakdown. So what today happens is someone might say, look, we distributed 100,000 food packs in Egypt.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? Right? Because that 100,000 food, yeah, you did that great job, mashallah, tabarakallah, but you may have used $1 million to do 100,000 food packs. Then the second question would be, what was in that food pack? Right? Not every food.
Margins, getting wholesale and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, like, yes. I mean, you might say, well, yeah, 100,000 food packs, but we only did 5 kilograms of rice, as an example, right? What was in that food pack, right? And because you might say, and how much did you actually use for that, right? So many charities would say, yeah, we distributed 100,000 food packs or this and that. I was looking at some of your playlists, and one of the videos you had, and with some famous names and what have you, and they had raised like, I don't know, 350,000 or something like that. And they mentioned that, and they might say, okay, well, we did prayer mats or we did this and that. Well, how much is a prayer mat costing? If it's like $50 or $100 or what have you, right? And then the second thing I have it is what's impact, right? So that cause that was being dealt with there is kind of close to my heart because I've seen that work happening on the ground. And I use that as a prime example, right? I've been doing New Muslim work for some time, and many New Muslim organizations, when they come up, they say, yeah, we need to have a New Muslim pack, right? But New Muslim pack to me is very easy to sell to a donor, sponsor a pack. But in my opinion, it's least impactful.
Okay.
Right? And people who know how the work happens, who know if the new Muslim is willing to take the pack with them or not, or do they throw it away, or they like, bro, how am I going to take this home and where am I going to put this, and that? But it's a great sell for the donor. So are you really going after impact, or are you going after a thing that's easy to sell to the donor?
And make a margin on it as well at the same
Yeah.
time, which you don't disclose. I would like to ask you one question, right? And this is the controversy, which is it's not controversial to a certain extent, but it can be perceived as controversy. You said, and I quote, and it's not interrogation, I'm just asking, that you said, do not donate in Ramadan. You said specifically Ramadan. This was in December you recorded this podcast, right? So you were intending Ramadan, which is literally a week away. You said, don't give to any fundraisers. Don't give it. Like, don't give your money there. And I've noticed there's a trend, and this is something that I need to ask as well. I'm going to do a separate video on it. You know, when they call these celebrity speakers, whoever it may be, what are you paying them? If it's connected to a charity, is a honorable, muttaqi businessman said, I'm paying for whatever cost that he's requested? Because first of all, what are they requesting? I think this needs to be more public, right? All these public speakers that come and fundraise for donations. How much are they taking? Are they taking from the zakat? Are they taking from the lillah, the sadaqah? Are you giving from the gift aid? We need to know these now. I think these are the natural questions we need to ask and be more public about it. What did you mean by don't donate to fundraisers? Why?
Yes. Okay. Obviously, it's a good clickbait, right? It's a clickbait. But however, that's definitely go into deeper into that, right? So again, to caveat, like your donation amount should not reduce, but you should become more efficient in how you donate. Now, look, I mean, the marketing scene in the donation is like really messed up, in my opinion. Okay. And that also requires the donor behavior to change. Okay. So for example, you have social media companies, social media marketing thing. They're like, okay, look, anybody that's coming through this link, we will have a cut of that. Okay. Right? So if you are clicking on ads and you don't want charities to spend on ads, don't donate from ads. Research the charity, go directly on their website and donate. Right? But however, I mean, depending on the social media company, some would say, well, even if it doesn't click on ad, as long as we have displayed an ad to that person, they come and they donate, we're going to charge you a percentage of that donation.
Okay.
That's one example, right? Now, same thing goes. So with fundraisers, there's two issues, right? One is what you mentioned about, celebrities or influencers being charged, right? So let's say if I already have researched an organization, I like them, I want to donate to them. Yeah, there could be an argument if I donate on the fundraiser, it might encourage other people. If you want to buy that, obviously, may Allah reward you for your intention, what have you. But if you think that, look, I mean, the 5%, 2%, 10%, Allah Adam, how much percentage is going to be taken by that influencer or donor, and I already am bought into that charity, why do I need to donate on that night or in that event if I don't want them to encourage them to bring in those celebrities and move them around, travel them around, have big venues? Well, if someone is covering that cost, who is covering that cost? I don't know, right? They might say, well, come and ask us. Well, I don't have time. Everyone should adopt a standard and disclose if you're doing these massive events where you're inviting world-class celebrities, who is covering the cost?
That's right.
If it's being sponsored by businesses and donation businesses, so they are getting marketing, great. But if it's coming out of a donor's donation, then we need to know, right? What's going on. So that's that. And then the third thing is obviously, with the Salah and the Taraweeh and the 27th night and automated donation and this and that, if you don't like those behaviors, don't encourage it, right? Don't donate on those things. Just go and donate separately. Right. If you don't want that, because many people, 37 night fundraiser, this, that. Okay, if you don't like it, well, don't donate on that during that fundraiser. Do the donation before or after. Something related to it is a new phase. Well, let's do automated donation. Now, someone came up with it. It's been quite a problematic thing, in my opinion, and I've seen discussions about it in the boardrooms. Now, someone came up with it as automated donation. Well, do you know that there's a cost to that automated donation?
Okay.
So, for example, you might say, okay, I'm going to do $100 every night, and then, it will be automated. I don't know the fiqh reason behind it. It kind of seems, unnatural to me, right? And most intentions to me, like the ibadah has to be intentional, right? So you just can't like automate it, especially if it has cost. So let's say if you say I'm going to donate $100 every night for 10 nights, that's $1,000. What is the cost of that automation?
Okay.
Right? Because obviously each transaction has a cost, right? And then the amount has a percentage, and that's just by processing companies, right? So are we just coming up with these gimmicks so that we can get more donation and without even educating our donors that this may not be the wisest way for you to donate? Because that, 1 or 2% of $1 billion is a huge amount of money. I mean, all millionaires and billionaires, by the way, anyone with 7, 8 figures portfolio, they understand the value of 1 or 2%.
Wow.
Right? Okay, what is 1 or 2% over time, and what does it mean over your lifetime? Right? It seems like a small number, but it's a huge number. For any multimillionaire, they wouldn't say, oh yeah, 1, 2% is nothing for me. Right? But the way we treat our donors, yeah, we have now this scheme, this automation, that is automation, anything that we can tap into their, hearts, make them do something, even if it's not the wisest thing, even if it's not the most economical thing as a community, to give money to these banks and these credit card processing companies and whatnot.
And can I ask you a question? Just playing devil's advocate, because it's always good to have an engaging
Yeah.
discussion
Yeah, for sure.
side. So when you were speaking about the automation fee that the processing companies take when a transaction happens, if they cover it without cutting in or eating away from the zakat or sadaqah, and it's covered by what we mentioned before, the gift aid or anyone else. I know it 1-2% in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking tens of millions, it's a lot of money, right? But if they cover it, is there any issues in that?
Okay, so that's a new topic, and may Allah bless you, Jazakumullah khair. Many, especially UK charities, they come up with 0% admin, right? Gift aid
No,
is not
100%
free
donations,
money.
100% donations, bro.
100%, yeah, gift aid is not free money, right? So
Yeah.
the way it happens in Canada is different, and that's another thing. So in Canada, what happens is that we also get the gift aid equivalent of gift aid. We call it tax return. But what happens in Canada, the donors get it.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So if I give $1,000, depending on your income level, you can get, let's say, roughly speaking, $35 back, up to $50 back in taxes.
SubhanAllah. So the charities don't take that money. We get it back.
And yeah, donors can get it. They have to apply for it, but they can get it.
Oh, it's based on application.
Yeah, it's a very simple application. It's very automated. It's nothing fancy. Okay. But on that point, so that's another tip for my Canadian and American donors. Do not donate where you cannot get tax receipt. Unless the value is so much high that you don't care about it, try to find charities that do the cause that you care about and get the tax receipt back. Many people think it's out of their piety that they don't want to get the tax credits back. Understand what that means. They're not giving you money from their own pocket. Government is giving you your money back that you are paying in taxes. So let's say you earn $10,000. They're going to charge you tax on $10,000. Right? But you say, you know what, look, from that 10,000, I gave $1,000 to a charity. So don't charge me tax on something that I'm not even keeping for myself.
True.
Right? So let's say that's fine. We charge you tax on 10,000, but you spend $1,000 in charity. We won't charge you tax on that $1,000. That's it. Yeah. So coming back to if you have already paid, but if you haven't paid, then we won't charge you. Whatever.
And
right?
if you don't apply for it, it's a simple process. But if you don't apply for it, you don't get it back.
Correct. Yeah, you have to apply for it, but it's a very simple thing. Your accountant can do it. You can do it. It's a very simple thing. So that's actually a donor tip that, I mean, even if I look at it as a huge amount of money that's not being, taken back in taxes, right? People just don't take the tax receipts for various reasons. And that's a lot of money that you're losing. And then at the same time, we are complaining about how the government is spending their money. Right? So if you're not happy with someone spending your money, don't give them the money that you deserve in the first place, right? Take it back, right? We're not talking about tax fraud or evasion or what have you. It's something that belongs to you. Take it back, right? Be smart about it. And then also another benefit of that is if you don't do cash donations, it is also good for accountability. Because if you're doing cash donations, there's no track of it unless the charity is like super honest. They're going to put it on their balance sheet. There's no tracking of it. So use card, get the receipt back, and make them accountable for it. And specify where you want the money to go. Now, coming back to the UK, it's not free, right? I mean, for example, let's say if I'm, I don't know if UK citizens can actually get that money back at all, or it's only the charities are going to get it. Okay. So that money that's coming to you is also coming from the tax money of the donor.
Yes.
Right? So it to me, it is actually, being not honest and transparent with your donor. If you say 0%, And if I have to click 2, 3 times and find out, oh, okay, you use gift aid money. That's not, to me, that's not being honest.
Okay. So
Because you have, because yeah,
being direct and saying, okay, this is where it's going, this is what we're doing with it, etc.
exactly. Because so let's say, roughly speaking, I don't know what the percentage is. Roughly speaking, is 30%.
25%.
25. Okay. So let's say, you have a charity, I have a charity. We both raise $100,000, right? And we are both saying 100% donation policy, right? And you are taking $0 from from your for your time. I'm saying I'm gonna take $25,000 that I'm coming. I'll say, oh, it's not your money. I got it from gift aid, so I don't have to report on that. I'll make sure your 100,000 goes, right? But now my spending is $100,000. Your spending is $125,000. So you're not taking salary,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you are true 0% and I'm not 0%.
Yeah, I understand. So, touching on
So same thing, right? So your question was if you are covering that cost from whatever, doesn't matter. Like how you are covering it doesn't matter unless you're covering it from your own pocket.
Yeah, that's the difference. It's coming
Or your friends or your advisor, you know what, we love this charity so much. Guys, just come and donate. We'll take care of all banking, all that stuff. And then I'll see how well you do it. Then I see how much marketing you do it if it's your own money.
Oh no, it's
Because
fair.
if you're making decisions on someone else's money without their permission, I mean, you can have $1 million marketing budget. I don't have a problem with that. Just tell the donor that, look, you're giving me $1,000, $100, I'm going to use to raise more money.
Yeah, I understand. At least have that openness to
Exactly. Then I can make a choice, right? Then I can compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
And leading on to, obviously, we're going to get to Zakat later, the salaries because remember, if you're running a charity, at the end of the day, you are running it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? There's too many charities nowadays, and we know the reason why, because it's quick money, they live a lavish lifestyle. So these CEOs, okay, so the argument that is raised that, okay, if I was to work for a corporate 500 company or a business and I am, employed as a CEO, I could get double the amount that I'm getting. So what I take, right, for working for a charity, it's my haqq. So whatever salary they are upon, 80,000, where's that money coming from, first of all? Is it coming from the zakat? Is it coming from the sadaqah? Is it a businessman that's funding your operations and funding your salaries and whatnot? What's your thoughts upon these CEOs or boardroom members who are, living very lavishly and living very comfortably?
Yeah, so I mean, my thought again, I'm saying I don't have a problem with a CEO or even a manager taking $1 million salary. No problem. Just be transparent about it, right? Because if you are transparent about it, so there's two things, right? Either the charity boards themselves become ultra and super transparent, everything out there, right? Or the donors become smart. If one of those two things happen, the markets will take care of it itself.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you are running a project, let's say feeding, distributing food packs in Egypt, I'm running a food pack, right? And you have an operation cost of $1 million. I have $100,000 or $10,000. It's simple, right? Donors can do the math, right? Yeah. The issue I have is when it gets hidden, right? We just talked about one simple example, 100% donation policy. It's not, right? Like, isn't it like lying and deceit and marketing? I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, but what is it like? Like, can we say on the day of judgment that, yeah, you know what? I said 100% donation policy, and majority of my donors understood that to be 100%, but it wasn't 100%. And to be honest, like I've seen one big, like really probably the biggest name in the Islamic influencer space. Okay, he's coming on a charity. He's their ambassador. Right, he's saying 100% donation policy. I'm like, how is that possible? Tick, 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 few clicks. Oh, gift aid. I just made a comment to that post. I don't know if anybody read it or not. And now, again, I don't know. My point is like maybe, I mean, giving the benefit of the doubt, I don't think many of the scholars and the du'as even understands, what's going on behind the scene.
In my opinion, I believe it's naivety. I do think that the charity sector has boards of scholars, contemporary scholars that understand, that there is issues, but the problem is that they're not willing to put their neck on the line. Now, the issue here, which is really becoming always manifesting now, is that when these charities abuse the verse in Surah Tawbah by declaring themselves as amilun, right?
Yeah. So anybody can open I can open one, you can open one. Create my own jobs.
That's it. And that's what's happened. And this is why I believe the incentive of opening a charity, one is that you're not actually, let's be frank, and I'm going to say this with the utmost respect. When you're opening up a charity, what are you doing actually? You're marketing for donation. So you don't have a product, but unless you think, astaghfirullah al-azim, unless you got a twisted mind, that the orphans are a product, or these natural disasters in Pakistan or whatever it be, is the commodity, and then we get it and then we make, that's sickening. In my opinion, that's a sick mindset. But what's your, I've done videos on it and my position is on. What's your position on so-called contemporary Jam'iyya Khairiyya now ummal in the Shari'i sense? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, you carry on. I could cut that part out.
Yeah, so I couldn't hear your last question.
Okay, so
can you hear me now?
Yeah. So in terms of
okay. So I'll actually, let me just answer your first question. Okay. So your first question was that what's my thought on, like, CEOs taking a huge amount of salary, 6 figures or mid 6 figures or what have you, right? So as I said, like, if it's transparent, I think the markets will settle down itself, because the competition will just, like, take care of that itself if it's transparent. The second issue I have is, see what happened, right? If a CEO has $100,000 salary, as an example.
Yeah.
Right. Now, but I would say, like, what is the main job of a CEO? For most CEOs that I know, 80 to 90% of their time is going into marketing.
Yeah. Or delegation.
You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So if his main, like, even at the end of the day, like, what is the value of the CEO to the board, right? That's what matters. Well, he is responsible for raising funds. So that means fundraising and marketing is his job.
That's right.
Okay. Now, what happens according to CRA, and I would imagine the Charity Commission in the UK has the same sort of definition. You can subjectively say that, look, from that 100,000, we would say that $33,000 is programs, and $33,000 is admin, and $33,000 is fundraising. So basically 30, 30, 33.
One third.
Right. So instead of classifying the whole salary as marketing and fundraising, you would only classify 2/3 of it. Does that make sense? Because they, subjectively they could say that, right? I mean, it's unless you're being, again, if you have that intention of being really, really transparent, it's not something that can be challenged in court.
Okay. And the other question was, and I think we had some internet issues, the concept of today's Jam'iyya Khairiyya posing as ummal, as per the verse in Surah Tawbah. And unfortunately, they abuse this particular verse, because if you look at the 8 categories, you got al-gharimin, right? You got those who are in debt. So they don't really look at that because they've got to pay money out. Well, I've got a very harsh stance. Even contemporary scholars, I did a video on it where Bin Baz, rahmatullah alayhi, Ibn Uthaymeen, even from the Ahnaf, contemporary scholars, the Azhari scholars, even the Jordanian Hanafi scholars, they said, today's Jam'iyya Khairiyya are not ummal.
والعاملين عليها. إزاي؟ قالوا هؤلاء لهم جمعيات أخذت الإذن من وزارة التضامن التي تمثل الدولة. أنا هعمل جمعية علشان أجيب دواء للمرضى، ده نشاطي. أنا جمعيتي عشان أحفر آبار فقط. أنا جمعيتي لقضاء الحوائج، هجمع تبرعات وهنفقها في كذا وهتيجوا تحاسبوني. قالوا لنا الشروط عندنا كذا وكذا وكذا، وجدونا وفينا بالشروط، قالوا خلاص ادي ختم النسر على الورق، يعني إذن الدولة. قالوا خلاص هؤلاء من العاملين عليها، ويجوز أن يأخذوا قدرا يسيرا كأجرة المثل لدفع رواتب العاملين من محاسبين ومن إداريين وكيت عشان العمل يستمر. يبقى دول أقل العلماء اللي قالوا بهذا القول، وهذه حجتهم. بينما ذهب 95 أو 99% من أهل العلم إلى أن الجمعيات الخيرية لا تدخل في سهم الزكاة الذي قال الله فيه والعاملين عليها. ليه يا أهل العلم؟ هو مين اللي قال كده الأول؟ دار الإفتاء المصري، اللجنة الدائمة للإفتاء في المملكة العربية السعودية، يعني الشيخ ابن باز رحمه الله، الشيخ ابن عثيمين رحمه الله، الشيخ الفوزان، الشيخ الألباني رحمه الله، الشيخ المنجد ربنا يبارك في عمره، الشيخ الشنقيطي وغيرهم عشرات قالوا لا، الجمعيات الخيرية لا تدخل في سهم الزكاة الذي قال الله فيه والعاملين عليها. ليه يا أئمة؟ قالوا العاملون على الزكاة هم الذين يعينهم ولي الأمر لجمع الزكاة، لإحصائها وجمعها وتوريدها لبيت المال ثم لتقسيمها، وهؤلاء لا ينطبق عليهم هذا الكلام. وأنا أميل كل الميل لرأي هؤلاء الذين قالوا بالمنع. لكن يبقى السؤال، طب هذه الجمعيات يعمل فيها بال20 وبال50 إنسان، ده في سيوة، ده في سيدي براني، ده في الواحات، ده في مطروح، ده في الجيزة، ده بيحفر بئر هنا ويشرف عليه، ده في مهندس هنا بيصمم ويشتغل، ده في كذا. الناس دي تاخد رواتبها منين؟ يعني أنا بقول لك خد 100,000 جنيه احفر لي بئر، هقول يا بير يا بير، يوم البير يتحفر لوحده؟ مش في شغل، مش في مهندس، مش في آلات، مش في عمال، مش في مشرف. الناس دي تعيش ازاي؟ والله من عمل منهم محتسبا جزاه الله خيرا، وإن كان في الجمعيات موارد أخرى تدفع لهم جزاهم الله خيرا، فإن لم يكن وإذا ضرورة تقدر يبقى ندفع لهم من صدقات التطوع أجرة المثل. هذا أعدل ما يقال.
قال والعاملين عليها والعاملون عليهم السعاة، بشرط أن يكونوا نوابا عن بيت مال المسلمين. وأما الذين يأخذون الزكاة ويفرقونها ولم يكونوا نوابا عن بيت مال المسلمين فليسوا عمالا، وإنما هم وكلاء، فلا يجوز لهم أن يأخذوا من الزكاة شيئا. بعض الناس يكون محسن، يقول عندي فقراء أعطني المال. أنت لست عامل، أنت وكيل، وبناء عليه لا يجوز لك أن تأخذ من الزكاة شيئا. فرق بين العامل والوكيل. وبعض الناس قد يتوسع ويظن أن الوكيل هو العامل وليس كذلك.
They can't take from the zakat. But unfortunately, because the maqasidis, there's always a maqasid argument there somewhere down the line, they are posing as ummal and they're taking percentages. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, again, I think one clear harm of that is that everybody can become that, right? And this is something we're seeing that happen, right? I mean, mashallah, tabarakallah to our brothers and sisters in the UK, like in the last 3-4 years, 4 or 5 UK charities have come in Canada.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Right, my question, like, why? Is that like a money pot that was being seen here that you wanted to be part of? Right, so that all of you will advertise and pay to the Facebooks and the Metas that we don't like, and the X and the Elon Musk, we want to advertise on Google, but we don't like those companies, especially with October and the whole year about we saw where their alliances lie, but we are willing to pay them money so that we can all compete. The 10 charities, the 10 top charities can compete to collect the zakat of the Toronto and Canada and Ontario and the rest of the Canada. Wow. Right, we're all going to compete. We're going to pay a portion of that money to the Googles and the social media of the world.
Yeah.
Why? Like, do you have a really good product that the existing charities couldn't do, that you have to have the presence here and do the marketing here and hire the CEOs, this, that, whatever? Right. So, and now, and that's connected to your point of Amini. And then, yes, sometimes some of these charities, by the way, what they do, they take the UK money, right, and they give it to the Canadian new charities, and then the Canadian new charity says, well, all the fundraising we are doing is 0%, don't worry about it. Well, that money came from somewhere, came from the UK donors, or the gift aid, right? So who gave you the permission to use that money to set up a shop somewhere else? Did the donors give you that permission, or you just decided that on behalf of donors? Or did you actually go to your friends and collected that money separately? If you did that, no problem. But if you made the choice on behalf of donors, I don't know, if you send an email to donors, hey, you know what, by the way, 10% of your donation, which we said will probably go to someone in need, we thought we'll just set up a shop in Canada and raise more money.
Raise more money, yeah.
I mean, and actually, to be honest, like, this is something I don't know. And if someone knows, please comment it. What does it mean to raise more money? If the Muslim donation pot in Canada is, let's say, $10 million, are you doubling that by doing more ads? Or is it still going to be $10 million plus minus 2-3%? Is the pot increasing, or is that your chunk of the pot increasing?
To be honest, in my humble opinion, and I could be wrong, I do believe the expansion project that charities have is based on the business framework and model. It's just capitalistic by nature, guising with Islamic terminology and Islamic principles, but in essence, they're not adhering to those principles. And unfortunately, we're going to have this common issue, especially with this time of year. It's going to be their main, I don't know whether you have it in Canada. We've got a few Islamic channels, okay, Bain al-Qawsayn. And what they'll do is every single day, each charity will pay this Islamic channel on the satellite TV crazy money just to have a slot for about 2 hours. And they'll raise stupid money. Now, going back to what we were mentioning about zakat and sadaqah, do you believe that charities, especially if they have a board of ulama, really separate the zakat? Because zakat have to have an element of tamlik. There has to be those who are mustahiqeen, that those who are obviously entitled to it. So when we look at it, and obviously which nisab, the gold or the silver, it's very technical. They don't study these topics, but do you believe they separate the zakat and the sadaqah? And, you know, do you believe that this is happening, or they don't care? Like, it's just sadaqahs and it's coming into the salaries, it's coming into the marketing. No one really cares. It's just because we have the right to do it because we are said charities. What do you think?
Yeah, especially I think the top ones are, right? But then again, it comes down to what is considered as zakat eligible, right? Or zakatable project, right? We just discussed that. Look, there's a clear conflict of interest. If I'm running an operation, 90% of my donation or 80% of my donation are zakat, right? Obviously, there's this temptations, illa ma rahimallah, that you're gonna get a fatwa that will help you run the operation. Right. And then, you know, right now we know that, I mean, you can get a fatwa for pretty much anything.
Anything. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Yeah. So if you want to do something, you want to buy like, you know, 10 homes on interest or investment, what have you, you'll probably find, you know, some decent scholars or what have you with great qualifications say, yeah, it's approved, Sharia compliant, no problem. Right. So what does that mean? Right. So again, so it goes back to a few things, right? I mean, if any board members are listening, you know, I mean, I think it starts from there. Look, this is how I like to think, and may Allah protect me, that look, I think I already have a lot of my own worries, right? Independent worries, my own salah and zakah and siyam and my own family, what have you, that I'm responsible for. Now, if I'm founding a charity or if I'm being a board member of a charity and I'm approving these things, right? Now I'm being responsible for that extra amount of money that I'm taking from people. So whatever I'm communicating or whatever I'm approving to be communicated, I don't think it will fly that, oh, I didn't know, right? Because the argument in the present day in the finance industry or the law industry is that it was your job to know, right? So you can't say I didn't know. He didn't tell me. She didn't tell me. Well, it was your job to know. You signed up for that job, right? You signed up to be a director, what have you. So that's first and foremost, to be very careful of what we are transmitting to the ummah, to our donors and so on and so forth, because you are now being responsible for it beyond your own individual responsibilities. So back to your question, I think the issue comes down to, you know, you have to look at it like, you know, if many charities have it, if you look at 2-3 down layers, they'll tell you that, okay, we will use your zakat in this and that project, right? And they would say, some of them would say that we will not have any portion of it used in Canada, okay? But then they will say that, look, 10% of that can actually be taken for our admins in the overseas country that we are working with.
The zakat, you mean?
Right? Yeah. So 10% of that can be taken in there. So you have to, that's why I was saying, like, you know, you need to be able to get that end-to-end visibility. So there are two problems when people say 100% zakat policy, there are two problems with it, by the way, right? You have to still see what do they mean by it. Because again, it's a terminology game, right? For me, I might say, hey, you know what? Amilina alayha, the zakat collectors is one of the categories of zakat. So I can easily take, you know, 20% or 13% of your zakat, no problem. And I can still got 100% zakat policy, right? The second one could say, okay, look, I'm not going to take any money, but what would happen is that my implementer on the ground will take 10% of it or 13% of it, right? But then are there more layers on the ground, or is that it?
Yeah, that's
right. At least be clear about it. And then there's another issue here that, again, the layman would not be able to see.
Which is?
Okay. So look, if I'm reporting, let's say if I'm being very honest, I'm reporting, guys, whatever money we got, let's say we got $1 million, 20% is admin, 80% is actually going on the ground and being spent on the ground. Okay. So that means from $1 million, 800,000 is being spent on the ground, right? Because I'm saying 20%. But if I also have a zakat policy that says 100% zakat policy, I'm not keeping anything here. Do you know what that means? That now means that the overhead on sadaqah is not 20% anymore. It's probably 40 or 60%.
Yeah.
Right? Because if from the $1 million, if 800,000 was zakat and 200,000 was the sadaqah, that means now the admin on sadaqah is 100%. Because the whole 200,000 is now being used to cover the marketing and everything else for zakat, right? So there's another dishonesty that happens here, because you might say, yeah, it's only 20%, but now it's all of a sudden 100% on your sadaqah.
But the problem we've got with that is zakat, as I said, that cannot be used for your admin, your marketing, because zakat by definition has to have possession. The people who are mustahiqeen have to have their entitlement. You can't now take a slice of the zakat. You've got to be transparent, like you said, which isn't happening. You're supposed to say, okay, look, the zakat, we're not going to touch. But the sadaqah, which has more freedom, we're going to take our admin cost from. Be transparent. Let us know. But like you said, this 100% donation policy, I don't buy it. Again, some have told me, and again, I'm not going to mention names, that they have food, they have clothing banks, so they make money from that, and they have shops, or they have businessmen that are kindly covering, whatever cost. Alhamdulillah, if that's the case. But I always say to the charities, la'natullah ala al-kadhibin. May Allah curse you. And we know the sab'at al-mubiqat, akl al-mal al-yatim. If they have this right that you're taking and you're not being transparent enough and you're jetting all over the world and living in plush hotels and wearing plush watches and nice cars and have a big 5-6 bedroom house at the expense of who? Whose expense is that?
Okay, something very simple. Someone might say that I'm just being splitting hairs, but maybe not. What is the definition of orphan? You just mentioned yatim, right? What's the definition of orphan?
Yeah, that's open to interpretation as well, isn't it?
Islamically, it's a different definition. English definition of orphan is different than Islamic definition. Maybe there's another definition in Islam, but I don't know of any other, right?
From my understanding, again, I could be wrong, that the definition of a yatim from the Shari'i perspective is that has lost a parent, whether it's a mother or a father, most notably a father, I think, from my
understanding. Yes, if that's the definition, that's great. But my understanding was that it has to be like, obviously, before you being a baligh or what have you, you're dependent and you lose a father.
Before the age of bulugh,
but the father, not the mother.
That's what I thought. It's the father, because that's the bread.
Yeah, but in English language is different, right? So you're quoting the hadith of the yatim, but then your definition of orphan is different.
That's true.
Right? I'm just saying, as a very simple thing, right? There's so many places where
they could abuse. Yeah. So just to head off now, because I've got some, and Allah barik fik for your time. I know we had different time schedules, didn't we? We had to make sure, obviously, we had the right time. So, the Gaza campaign had many influences, and I'm going to go back to that briefly, because this is an issue. I believe, the nuances and the intricacies of zakat, what's been taken, the istalahat of your team and all that. That, again, it's important, but, there's leeway for that. We could have that discussion. But when it comes to taking the zakat and not being transparent with it and obviously abusing it and whatnot, again, that's a different story. So, I've got in front of me, right, I'm going to put it on screen, that, and I'm not going to mention his name, I'm just going to put it up, right, that one said celebrity speaker raised $2,043 dollars and 950 cents, right? Where's the other way around? 2 million, no, yeah, $2,043 and 950. Now, this was a Gaza emergency appeal, right? You don't know who it is because I haven't put it on the screen yet, so I'm not going to mention his name. I just want your take on it, because if I mention the name, you might think, okay, yeah, X, Y, and Z. What's your thoughts now about this 2,043? This celebrity speaker raised, right? I've got it here, and he's raised other money with these with another charity. So obviously he's taking a percentage, obviously no transparency and whatnot. But this 2,043 he's raised himself. This is his own appeal. So have you heard in the Americas said celebrity speakers, I'm not going to mention their names, mention about what they would take from these campaigns? Has it ever been transparent?
No, I've seen some that are saying that, look, I'm promoting this product or this business or this charity, and I don't take any money from it. I've seen that some people, maybe I know like few handful, and again, I don't know everyone. Some have said that I'm doing this campaign, but I don't take any money from this link, what have you. Right? Personally, I don't think people disclose what they are getting. Right, I have seen some discussion because I'm part of some boards and what have you, or connected to board members and whatnot. So I've seen some discussion around it, but I haven't seen public numbers from people. Again, personally speaking, I wouldn't look. I mean, I wouldn't use a celebrity link. Why are you using a celebrity, gift? What is it? Give me or launch good or Why are you using their links? Right. So if you understand a charity, you like it, go research it and donate directly. Why would you go through a link? So
this was launch good, by the way, and the project is closed. He had 13,975 supporters. Zakat verified fundraiser. Okay, and this campaign will collect all funds by April 21st, which was my birthday, by the way, 2024, and he raised 2,043. There's no transparency. I'm not going to mention the speaker; it's on screen. No one can see us right now. It's the link for the speaker. Why hasn't there been any follow-ups as to what happened with that 2 million? Where's the documentation? $2 million, my friend. That's a lot of money. And this is for Gaza. Where's your invoices? Where's your inventories? Where did it go? Which part of Gaza during that particular time when the war was happening, right? North Gaza was besieged, Jabalia, Beit Liha, Beit Hanun, even Khan Yunis, even other areas. What's it called? What's that famous area? Shaja'iyah, and all these areas. You raised 2 million. So I would like to ask you, you don't know, you still don't know who he is. I haven't mentioned the name. Would you agree with my sentiments? What happened with that money?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, and that's regardless of celebrity or not. Like anyone who's raising the money,
Yeah.
right? They should be, sharing that report. Now, I mean, there's another thing that comes to my mind, and I'm not like, I'm not as well educated as you are, mashallah, tabarakallah, with your studies and what have you, right? Obviously, there's a famous hadith about a zakat collector, right? And he said, this is the zakat, and this is what I was given. And we know what the Prophet ﷺ said to him.
About the
Right? So
power.
yeah, so like you sit at home and let's see what comes to you, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if you are an influencer and you have a go and give launch good or whatever, fund me or whatever link that you have,
Yeah.
are people giving it to you or are they giving it to charity, right? They're showing you love that, okay, they want to come to you, support you, whatever, they're your followers, this and that, but they're essentially giving it to you, right? Why, yeah, first of all, it should be disclosed. By the way, in financial markets, any sort of commissions are disclosed. You have a finder fee, you have this, that, whatever, you are supposed to disclose that. So basically, if you have like an investment fund and you have fundraisers, you have to disclose that look, this fundraiser is getting this much money, because in that case, what's happening, if I'm an investor, right, and I'm giving you my money to invest, you have to disclose where the money is going.
Okay.
Shouldn't it be same or better if I'm giving you money for donations?
And don't you think this should be implemented across the board regarding Islamic charities? What the hell's going on here? Why is this? Why is this? So practical in the business world when it comes to our deen and our accountability? I was studying with my mufti the other day, and he mentioned about, and this is in the books of the Sahaba, the Tarajim of the Sahaba, and Umar bin Khattab had Khalid bin Walid investigate for certain things, regarding the Baytul Mal. That if this is the transparency of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, right? And I think there's an author of Abdullah bin Mubarak that said 1 dirham that is doubtful, is one dirham given knowing that it's pure is better to me than giving 6,000 dirham that is doubtful. You see? So looking into the issues with charity and bringing this to a close, Labor Figs a bit for coming on and giving your input. But Ramadan's around the corner and we highlighted that. What's your last message to our donors, regarding their zakat? Because they have a haul, they have a certain day they have to give it. So now that you're gonna have your sponsored ads, your Facebook, your Instagram plastered with all sort of nice marketing videos, and obviously they're going to be fundraising in the masajids, especially those Islamic channels who are going to have different charities paying crazy money, which is going to be from the gift aid or potentially from the zakat, which is haram. You're using zakat money to go on TV. Anyway, what's your last message to our beautiful donors that are going to be donating in Ramadan?
So number one, do not reduce the amount you will be giving this Ramadan. It should not be less than the one that you gave last year. If Allah has given you more, it should be same or more. It should not go less unless you have a deed between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second thing, what we are saying is that, look, a believer is not supposed to be naive or, simple, what have you. We talked about the hadith that a strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a weak one. So be smart about your donation, right? Don't just trust everything that you see, inshallah. I'm not saying to judge people, but things happen. You have seen, different videos. I mean, you have a lot of videos and details behind the scenes on your channel. We have seen a lot of stuff happen. You are responsible for delivering your zakat, for making sure your zakat goes and benefit people, what have you. And then so and so for sadaqah, right? It's just like how you will ask 10 questions. And I run an investment fund, for example, right? Not to put any link or advertise there. And I know how people ask me questions when I'm asking them money for investment. Right. And I also know, if I know because of, the trust in the community, what have you, I say, what, I'm running this project, give me money for donation, right? Many people won't ask me those questions. Good for me as an operator, but just like how you would ask about your investments, ask questions about your donations, raise the bar. And by doing that, you would actually be doing a good service for the ummah, because you will help and join us in reducing the spills and the leakages of the funds in causes where it shouldn't be.
And not even causes, personal usurping of wealth.
Overhead, fat operations, middle layers, this, that, marketing, going to Meta, business, social media, this, that, and obviously take your donation receipts, right? Create a flow, get it in the system so it's tracked, and the charities have to report it. And obviously, if you get the donation receipt, talk to your muftis, right? And figure out that money, in my opinion, I've posted a link on my channel, what have you, from various scholars. It's actually, it is your right. You can take the money back from the government. If you don't feel like it, when you get the money back from the government, give it back into donation, but don't leave it back with the government. Take that money back and use it wisely. And then lastly, this came up again, like, you were saying, mashallah, that, zakat is only for this and that, and it cannot be used for admin or this and that. There are many different scholars. The definition of fi sabilillah is quite widened according to many scholars, right?
Contemporary
So, sorry?
Contemporary scholars, fi sabilillah.
Oh yeah, fi sabilillah, like, you say you can use it for da'wah. You can use it for giving da'wah to non-Muslim. You can use it to run new Muslim retreats. You can use it for this, that, right? You will get fatwas, no problem.
We know about those who are inclined, what's it called in the verse in Surah Tawbah, those who are
Oh yes, mu'allafat al-qulub.
Oh, boom. And Ibn Abdul Barr, in his Al-Istidkar, said that the those who were inclined, mu'allafatu qulubahum, this is ended at the time of the Prophet. This was only in the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Malik said this. You see?
Yeah, I believe that Umar radiallahu anh, like, ended that, right? Like, because
yeah.
strong
So those who are inclined, it was only ila ihdi, or in the ihdi of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is Al-Istidkar. Imam Malik made it clear. So what it is people use it for media, people use it fi sabilillah. Now, obviously, if you look at the classical understanding, you know what that means. We don't need to go into that. Even with Ibn Sabil. So I could be traveling now. I could be going to, I am traveling. So can I now say, I'm Ibn Sabil, give me some zakat? Why not? Like, if you look at it from a Shari'i perspective, yes, the zakat was always centralized, by the dawla, the imara, and the khilafah. So obviously, if you go to the wazir or the wuzara, or you go to any, diwan or dawa'in, you could say, look, I'm Ibn Sabil, I'm going. Why can't I get it? If I meet the nisab level, right, to a certain extent, you can see how it could be exploited. Like you said, you get a fatwa for everything, actually. You get a fatwa for everything, which is sad. Take your donation seriously, like the brother said about the investment, using that analogy. The way you take your investment seriously, why not take your zakat and your sadaqah seriously, considering the exploitation that's happening? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to obviously make us of those who, honor those who are less fortunate than us, and give us the ability to support them in whatever way possible, whether it's financial, whether it's sustainability, whether with dua. Naturally, we do that anyway. But Zubair, Allah yabarik fi for coming on, and I hope, inshallah ta'ala, our paths cross soon, inshallah ta'ala. If you're ever down in the UK, in Birmingham, please, you're more than welcome, and we'll host you as best as we can. And I'm sure if I was ever in Canada, I'm sure you'll reciprocate that emotion as well. So inshallah ta'ala, engage in conversation, and with Ramadan around the corner, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in worship, in recitation of the Quran, in dua, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate the suffering of the ummah, and to grant his victory in those areas where we are oppressed, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never forsakes the believers. And that time will come sooner rather than later. بإذن الله الكريم. So take care of yourselves. وصلى على نبينا محمد.
ليس الغريب غريب الشام واليمن، إن الغريب غريب اللحد والكفن، إن الغريب له حق لغربته على المقيمين في الأوطان والسكن، سفر بعيد وزاد لن يبلغني، وقوتي ضعفت والموت يطلبني، ما أحلم الله عني حيث أمهلني، وقد تماديت في ذنبي ويسترني، تمر ساعة